when it comes to SEI, what are my thoughts on 2000 SEI? Now, some people may be thinking, okay, what do you mean by that? Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, the other day someone asked me, is 2000 SEI good enough? Now, even though I can't speak on anyone's behalf, and even though, again, nothing I say is financial advice, this is just my perspective, but at the same time, that wouldn't disappoint me because if, let's say, for whatever reason, went to the price of $7, now at that point, 2000 SEI would be worth, at that point, 14,000. Now people may be thinking, okay, first of all, why would you care about 14,000? Well, if let's say I just saved 3,000 out of that, I'm not even saying save, 5,000 or something. I'm just saying if let's say in that make-believe scenario, I just saved 3,000 from that. Now, for whatever reason, if I use that for the next cycle in a make-believe scenario and that did a 10x, became 30 grand, it's nothing I would necessarily find disappointing because first of all, even if let's say I didn't use that for the next cycle and just say it went to the price of $7 and I was holding 2000 SEI, 14 grand is not necessarily such a disappointing amount if let's say that is not the only thing I'm holding in my portfolio. Not to mention turning, let's say, that hypothetical 3 grand to maybe doing a 10x for whatever reason during the next cycle and a 30 grand, even again, during that next cycle, if that is not the only thing I'm holding either, I don't know why I'd be disappointed. But again, this is just my perspective. Now, when I take a look at something I say as well, it doesn't mean it will happen, but when I take a look at it, just its fundamentals, the amount of holders, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if, let's say, there was even an altcoin season, but only time will tell. Now, when I take a look at the idea of $7, it is around a 33x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it'd be around 43.7 billion, which we've seen, by the way, even BNB back in 2021 exceed that market cap by around 60 billion. But yeah, besides that point, it's just not a market cap that would necessarily, I think, surprise me that much, but again, this is just my point of view. And when I take a look at SEI, I get it, it's under some stiff competition, but in terms of the actual amount of competitors, there is a lot, and I think the ones that do exist are pretty stiff as well. But then I don't think that when it comes to SEI, I just think it doesn't really lose out when it comes to the fundamentals because, allegedly it is the fastest EVM, or should I say Ethereum virtual machine. Again, that's what EVM stands for. But then it is allegedly the fastest EVM blockchain for high frequency applications. Now, again, there is a lot of competition out there in the blockchain space, but I think that SEI fundamentally, it seems very compelling, at least in my perspective. Now, allegedly, if we take a look at this, high-frequency applications can be built that settle in 400 milliseconds. So when it comes to SEI, that's very impressive because that's literally less than half a second. I mean, that's very, again, I think, just groundbreaking in a sense where something like SEI, which isn't necessarily the most popular thing out there, that seems like a groundbreaking achievement for the size of the project, again. But yeah, that's the way I view it. Now, when I take a look at it, SEI is also allegedly backed by Circle, which is the creator of USDC, and as well as Coinbase. Now, why do I think it's pretty interesting? It's because Circle and Coinbase, they're both publicly listed. Coinbase is on the S&P 500, and when I take a look at Circle, again, being the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, that's very massive, right? Actually, the way I take a look at it is that Coinbase and as well as Circle, I mean, they don't really need to back SEI. It kind of doesn't really impact them in any significant way. But then, allegedly, that they're even doing that in the first place, I think it might showcase something. Maybe they see how SEI is fundamentally amazing. Who knows? But that wouldn't surprise me. Because again, they're so massive. They don't really need this, right? If anything, I think SEI might need them more, hypothetically, than they do need SEI. Again, but that's just my thought process. So when they actually believe in something that they don't really need, so to speak, because they are a backer, supposedly, I don't know why that would make me not assume that they do hypothetically care about the fundamentals of it and find it maybe pretty interesting. But yeah, only time will tell as to what SEI will be moving forward. Now, when I take a look at the ecosystem when it comes to SEI, sure, it's not the biggest out there, it's not the most popular, but then at the same time, I do see some, pretty interesting aspects, like for instance, AI, which I actually think SEI is an amazing place to be maybe for an AI project just due to its fundamentals. And when I take a look at the AI market, it is expected to be worth nearly $2 trillion by 2030, according to Grandview Research. That's quite a ways away, I would say. when compared to right now, because it is 2030, we're still in 2025, but still, I think that kind of shows the progression as to what that market could be. And we've already seen kind of time and time again how usually when altcoins have a pretty good sentiment, some of these AI projects do sometimes go along with the ride. And again, seeing that AI aspect, so to speak, when it comes to the ecosystem, when it comes to SEI, I think that could, maybe greatly benefit it, especially during an altcoin season. Even though when I think about SEI, I'm not thinking about AI, right? I'm just thinking about, oh, maybe it's this kind of project that could maybe do something. It has an aspect of Ethereum virtual machine. But then again, just having that sort of AI aspect on its ecosystem, I think that could maybe play to its advantage moving forward, especially if maybe there is an altcoin season. Now, when I take a look at, for instance, some people like to say, okay, when it comes to SEI, no one's really going to care about it because there's a lot of these type of projects that have an aspect of Ethereum virtual machine. Totally understand that, but again, just like I mentioned earlier on in the video, I don't think there's that many compelling options. Like, there's a lot of competitors at the end of the day, but I don't think there's that many that are that compelling, especially when compared to someone like SEI, which again, supposedly high frequency applications can be built that settle in 400 milliseconds. So yeah, I find that pretty cool. Now, when I take a look at, again, $7, people like to say, okay, why would you even really care about that? Well, again, because $7 is around a 33x from here. If I take a look at something like Solana, for instance, or even Ethereum, I don't know if they could do that in the next 5 months. This is just my perspective. It doesn't mean SEI will necessarily do that, but then it's just the market cap it would have. It just doesn't seem that ridiculous. Whereas something like a BNB, like a Solana, like an Ethereum, to do over 30x, the market cap would just have to be so outlandish, But this is just my perspective, and I'm talking about just a time frame of the next 5 months, right? I'm not saying 10, 15, 20 years later. I'm just saying in that kind of 5 month range. But besides that as well, when I take a look at, say, am I going to know when there's going to be an altcoin season the exact moment? No. I mean, the only thing I can do is just stay patient, hold, and I just wait. But I feel like just by me doing that, it's sort of good enough preparation already in and of itself, in my perspective, even though I'm not telling to do anything. And the reason is because if, let's say, I'm just holding dollar cost averaging and just waiting, and that's pretty much about it. If, let's say, the market does do something when it comes to altcoins, it's kind of like going along with the ride without having that unnecessary stress of trying to find the perfect moment, if that makes sense. Because if I'm just holding, I could be sleeping, I could be walking in the park, I could be riding my bicycle or something like that, and then the market does well. I didn't have to try to find the perfect moment, right? I was just doing things again in my day-to-day activity, and then it just did that. So at the same time, that's just kind of my perception when it comes to that. That's why I'm just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. So I don't want to give up. I'm just staying patient. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.